Okay, we are live.
All right. We are calling to order the December 6th meeting of the Poolesville Town Commissioners. Carrie Cook is testifying on another phone call, another Zoom call. She should be with us shortly, 10 minutes or so, I believe. So I'll sort of get everything started here. As you know, we always start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Why don't we all just say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we will start with Commissioner committee reports. I will go first for the Planning Commission, and I have nothing to report. I think last we talked about staff is going to update the commissioners on the progress of the master plan. That's something Tony and I can talk about offline. There's not a whole lot to report, but Tony, can we get together and discuss getting a report at the next meeting, maybe?
Sure. I did talk to the consultants late last week about how just the format of what updates would be. There weren't any actual updates.
Yeah.
And how they migrate onto our website.
Okay. Very good. So our next meeting for the Planning Commission is going to be a week from Wednesday, I believe. So I will have more information for all of you at the next meeting. Ed Reed, you want to talk to us about fair access and/or sustainable Poolesville?
I'll go with sustainable Poolesville. I'll give Jim a shot to talk about fair access.
Okay.
Sure. So we met last week, and it was great because we had a young person who had joined the meeting as well from John Poole Middle School. And you guys might have read about, he had an interview in one of the local magazines here. And so he's really looking at doing some work at JPMS with sustainability. But we also had a few other guests. We had Khalid Malik, who came, he talked with us just about the streetlight project. And so I'm just going to my notes here, and it's, I believe there's working on this, there's a timing piece. We're working on submitting a grant application to the state. I think, Tony, you might be I think you're probably aware, in the loop with that.
Yeah, it's under new business.
Okay. All right.
And Khalid is in the waiting room as well.
Okay, fantastic. Then we also just had an education session where we had a few guests talk to us just about their perspective on the pesticide law in Montgomery County. And so just for us as a committee, we were just in a process of just doing fact gathering on the county's pesticide law. And it was one of those times where we just had people speak to both sides of the issues, where we were just listening and learning. So nothing more to bring forward at this time. So that's what we did. And then we'll talk, I guess when we get to new business, we'll have more to go into.
All right. Thanks for that, Ed. Appreciate that. Jim will be with us shortly. We'll get with him when he gets here. Jeff, would you like to talk to us about the Parks and Rec Street?
Yeah, so it'll be brief because we didn't have a meeting since the last commissioners meeting where I gave my previous report. And we do have, well, we were supposed to have a meeting on the, I believe it was the 8th, but that December the 8th of the Wednesday, but that's already been canceled. So we really won't have anything probably until January.
Jeff, do you know why it was canceled? Did we ever figure that out?
The only guess I could make is we didn't have any items on the agenda, but that's
correct.
That's my speculation. I don't know for sure.
That's what I was told by the town clerk, that there were no agenda items, and the chair decided to cancel the meeting.
Okay.
All right, Jim, you want to talk fair access for us, please?
Well, I think most of the initial things that we're going to talk about will be on our agenda to talk about later on today. The letter that we created that we want to send out to all the elected officials, and the positioning of that letter and the direction that we're trying to get them to go. Essentially, when we get into later on this meeting, we're just talking about how to try to push the ball forward for White's Ferry. The rest of the stuff, school things, everything else that we've got going on our plate, they're on kind of a status quo position right now. We've still got lobbying to do. We're going to be at the Montgomery County Legislative Breakfast this Friday, which is, I think you've been to that one too, Martin. It's a very good, it's as good as it gets really in terms of meeting as many people as you can. And, the plan is to be there. I don't know who's going from our group, but I know I'll be there around 6:30, nice and early. And then we'll be snoozing every single elected official that we can get our hands on. So.
Great. Just to that note, it was interesting that I didn't get an invite to that this year. Not that I would have been able to attend, but I don't know what changed over years past, but any idea? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
All right,
I did. I actually got mine through Link, so I don't know what happened. I said that's why I say I have no idea what commissioners have been invited. Don't
Yeah,
know.
I got mine through Link also, and I think Jim and I, because of fair access, and just we were able to go in under the fair access umbrella, because I'll be there Friday morning also. I told Link I would go.
So
Yeah,
Fair
so sorry,
Access
Martin.
Fair Access bought a table. Is that what you're saying?
No, Van Eperen buys the table.
Yeah.
No.
So
Okay.
there's no reason why you shouldn't have been invited. And maybe you were. I don't know what who got invited, who didn't.
Very good.
And if you want to take my spot, 6:30.
I'll think about that.
Okay, good. You let me know.
Hey, Martin, before we move on the agenda, I just wanted to give kudos to Santa over there with the bow tie for riding around, bringing some Christmas cheer, holiday cheer. And then also just want to give a shout out to the staff who made it possible for us to continue with the tree lighting and menorah lighting ceremony. So I thought that was well attended.
Yeah, no, I think the shout out's very much appropriate. I mean that the comments has looked as good as I've ever seen it. Yeah. With everything out there. And I would know because I live right there. So
right.
And yeah, I agree. Yeah, Jeff did a fantastic job. Getting the fire department here and being Santa, and our town staff did a fantastic job. I mean, really, really huge props to those guys. And then, we wanted to announce that at the meeting, at the event, and things were moving fast, and Valerie had the microphone, so we just asked her to do it. And in retrospect, I don't think it had quite the impact that it probably should have, because,
the commissioners should have said something.
Yeah, it sounded as if she was thanking them, but I've sent Preston a note and let him know how great everything looked before it all went down, and hopefully they'll hear about the shout out tonight, because they definitely deserve it. It was great. Okay, moving on. Approval of minutes. Anybody want to make a motion? Have you all looked at the minutes?
Yes, I read them. I only picked them up today at the town hall, and I read over it. That everything looked fine to me. So I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the commissioners meeting of November the 15th.
I'll second.
Was that a second, Ed? Yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. They are approved. All right. Let's see what's next here. Public comment. Any public comment tonight, Tony?
Not have public comment.
Okay.
No one signed up.
Very good.
I thought Gary. What about Gary Hart?
Well, that's
He's on
under
the
old
agenda.
business. Old business. Gary Hart's.
Oh, okay.
I have admitted Gary
yeah.
to the room. He's probably connecting now.
That's the documentation that we received.
Yes, it's in the package under
Okay.
old business.
Yeah, I have it. Yep.
Gary is buffering at the moment.
No, I'm online.
Oh, she's online. We can't see you if you have your camera on.
Yeah, I do. It says that the host disabled my screen sharing.
Yeah. Well, your host hasn't thought about you for 1 minute, Gary. I'm
I
sorry.
was wondering what was going on for the last 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, we can hear you, which helps.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it.
Let me, yeah, my thing is asking you to start your video. So I imagine if there's any questions from the commission, you can just answer them verbally. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
How's that?
Perfect.
Very good.
That's worse. I've been better off not showing my picture.
Okay, well, we have, this agenda item is an allocation request relative to parcel 915, which was extended. The approval was extended back in October by the Planning Commission for 16 months, and the applicant's requesting allocation of the water and sewer taps. There's a recommendation from the town engineer in your package tonight, dated November 26th, recommending approval of the request. And the applicant is
great.
here if you have any questions.
Yeah, this is just a little background. This went before the Planning Commission. I think Gary, you were kind enough to come in, I think at our last meeting, our November meeting, and where you were unanimously approved, if I recall correctly, to make the recommendation to this board to grant you the extension.
And if I may ask Tony a question, or maybe it should be directed at Mr. Hart, on John Strong's letter, on the very last sentence, Tony, it says conditional award. What is it conditional upon?
Payment of fees.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. All right.
Okay, if nobody has any questions, do I hear a motion? Anybody care to make a motion?
So just to be clear, so we're extending the water taps for, I guess it's 8 homes. Is that right?
I don't know, extending's right, where we're
Yeah.
approving the allocation of
Oh,
8
okay.
Yeah,
taps.
I would say, yeah, granting conditional allocation.
Okay.
Right?
The way it's worded in the letter.
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah. Okay.
And I think when I said payment of fees, I think that also it goes hand in hand with, this is a preliminary site plan, so I imagine there's a final site plan approval as well.
Mhm.
All right, so Damon wants to make a motion.
I'd like to,
Or-
I'll take that motion. I'd like to vote to approve conditional approval for an extension of 16 months for the preliminary plan for P915 Hart's property.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second the motion.
Thanks, Ed. All in favor?
I was kind
Anyone
of looking
opposed?
for the word, I kind of was looking for the term taps in that motion.
Okay, we can, I'm reading off the words. I can amend my motion to say the conditional approval for the extension of awarding of taps for an additional 16 months as of October 13th, 2021.
I'll continue to.
Want me to start over?
Yeah, that's okay.
Extension
Yeah,
of,
good catch, Tony. Good catch.
Yeah. The conditional approval of awarding of taps for an extension of 16 months as of October 13th,
You want to
2021.
second that, Ed?
I second it.
Okay, let's do this again. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Good night.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for being here.
Anything else, Gary? Are you okay?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Sure.
I was told that I didn't have any taps. Everything had expired. So that I was told I never had a tap. So that's fine if it's extended. That I could have been wrong, so that's okay. The other question is, what does it mean by conditional approval for the allocation?
I believe it's conditioned on final site plan approval. Since it's a preliminary approval now, that I'm assuming that Poolesville has a final approval and then conditioned on payment of the fees when they're due.
Is John Strong on this
He
Zoom
is
right now?
not. He is not.
The allocation allocation needs to be there before you pay the impact fees for the water and sewer, which is a different fee. So, I mean, the fact that is that how you're giving out allocation now? It's all conditional? You just did some allocation at your last meeting.
I don't think you're formally awarded allocation until you actually pay. I think I think it's all conditional until it's paid for.
Okay, that's helpful, Jim, because I didn't realize that.
And I think the purpose of this board, and thanks again to the work of the Planning Commission, is to grant that conditional approval subject to, like, we're not going to give taps to people unless the compensation's already in place, or else we'd be giving it out and then you could keep it and not pay, potentially. Not you. You would, of course, do the right thing.
No, I understand that.
That's my understanding. And I know you know it as well as we do.
Yeah. I guess sounds good to me.
Well, do you want to, I mean, this is one of those times where, you've already been awarded things. So it's probably no time to take it any further than that, but I'm open to your conversation about it.
No,
and if you have a different viewpoint, I mean, you ran the ship for a while,
Well, not the allocation thing.
Okay.
That's changed so many times since '92 when I got off the commission, and I can't keep track of how that's going. But,
and we have had several itinerations of it. There's no question.
I'm just glad that I've got the allocation, and I'll figure out what conditional means when it comes time to cough up the money or whatever has to be done.
And Gary, it doesn't look like you're copied on John Strong's recommendation letter, so I'll get that to you.
That would have been helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you not seen that?
No, I have not.
It's in tonight's agenda package, but I'll make sure you get it.
The main thing, Gary, that it reads right off the bat, it says on October 13th, 2021, during the Planning Commission meeting, the preliminary plan for P915 was granted for conditional approval for an extension of 16 months as of October 13th, 2021. This was for the purpose of completion of the subdivision preliminary plan, which in my mind means this has been given this conditional approval tells you that you have taps based on your conditions and that you're moving and allows you to move forward with your plan.
Okay.
It says the applicant is requesting allocation of the water sewer taps for the proposed 8-lot subdivision based upon the completion of the preliminary plans and other plans moving to subdivision recordation. This is a conditional approval. We are furthering the Planning Commission's conditional approval as commissioners.
I think I now understand what that means, because there's one outstanding item for the preliminary plan to move forward.
And here's the last paragraph, so you'll know what that means too. Please note, if the plans are not complete and approved by the Planning Commission based upon the plans submitted to date and items established for contingent acceptance, the Commissioner's proposal may retract the allocation of water sewer taps. Additionally, note that fees would need to be paid at the time of recordation to award the taps in question.
Okay, that clarifies all of it, Jim.
Pretty good letter, pretty good language from John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now I understand it. And Martin, you know that there were some conditions on the initial one, and we've pretty much gotten rid of most of those. And actually, allocation was one of the conditions for moving forward on a preliminary plan. So
right,
this is really helpful. And hopefully my final question, and I think you're giving me privilege here to be able to dialogue with you during your meeting, so thank you. And this is transferable, is that correct? With the property?
Yeah, I don't think this is granted just for you, as long as your plans, everything you've needed to supply
yeah. Okay.
Stays in the condition that it stays in, then there's no reason why it wouldn't be. We don't have Jay with us tonight, but I'm 99% sure he would tell you that's the case.
All right.
Why are you gonna sell it now that we did this?
I'm still working on it. I've been at it for 4.5 years since we started, and I'm not gonna let up in it. And I got enough cold calls going that I just keep plugging away and see what happens.
I'm not speaking for the rest of the commissioners, but by the time you finally get this underway, the town is going to need to have some houses coming in. And so, good luck with it.
I hope it can move in 16 months now. I mean, the pandemic was just awful in trying to get any kind of clearances through the county.
And meanwhile, Brightwell Crossing and Lennar just blew out the doors and sold all their inventory.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
Mhm.
Well, maybe it is for sale.
Glad I could help. I will not be involved, FYI, to everybody on this telecast.
All right.
All right.
John. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks, Gary.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Martin, thanks for letting us kind of yak that through a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. And I'll turn it over to Carrie now, who's back. I warmed it up for you, Carrie. I don't know if you want to do your events report or just keep going through the agenda.
Well, I guess the only thing I would say is that we had a great event on Friday night. Thanks to everybody who came out and was a part of it. Thanks to Santa for making his lap around. And I think the train rides and the letters to Santa were a big hit. So they were a long line, but people didn't mind standing in the line to write their letters, and it was great. So it looks like we're on to new business.
Yes.
Proposed amendment to Poolesville Sustainable Procurement Policy. Excuse me.
Okay, I have Khalid Malik standing by for questions, but this is a request. This was mentioned by Ed that, and kudos to your committee for meeting at 7 o'clock the day before Thanksgiving, Ed. I was impressed.
And the young student showed up.
I had told Khalid he had no chance of getting your endorsement when we were sitting in the chambers on Wednesday afternoon. But he went after it.
Group.
So this is relative to the contract that we have with a company called Green Turnkey, and they're doing a study of feasibility of upgrading or changing the structure of our streetlights or some sort of solar project. This requires an amendment to our existing sustainable procurement policy, with both of which are in your package. There's Khalid, but the amendment would be integrated, I believe, into the existing Poolesville Sustainable Procurement Policy. This was discussed at the committee level the day before Thanksgiving. They did endorse it, and now it's to you for approval.
Tony, can I ask a question?
Sure.
The 2 pages, is everything on here the amendment, or are there some sections on here that are the amendment? I couldn't quite figure out what parts were being added or taken away or changed.
I believe the two documents will actually be merged, and there are some areas that are duplicative. So I don't believe 2 full pages are going to get wrapped into it. It's mostly about reporting our consumption of electricity. And Khalid, feel free to jump in anytime you want.
Oh, okay.
It's about reporting our willingness to report and to gather data to become a smart energy community and enroll in certain programs, which are not specifically within the policy as well. And then once that policy is amended, Khalid can help us to get access to additional state funding for either a solar project or to upgrade LED lighting or something along those lines. But I don't know that that's been definitively completed yet.
Well, let me ask another question.
Well, do you
Is it-
see if Khalid wants to add to that? Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Greetings, everyone. So yeah, Tom is on the right page. It's the only program you would enroll would be the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. That just requires you to upload the baseline information every year to make sure you're hitting that 15% target. And I pardon me, but I just jumped in while Tony was online. But and if you can see the street lights, we exceed that 15%. I think we're closer to 20% just with the upgrading of the street lights to meet that particular energy efficiency policy.
Hey, Jeff was probably trying to get a question in too, though. And just gotta see what he was saying.
Yeah, well, I did have a question, and I'm not sure if it's for Colette or for Tony. And it has to do with, on the first page, there is 3 bullets near the top. But are these things, and maybe you already answered it, but are these things that we can actually achieve? Like a 15% reducing per square foot electricity by 15% within 5 years, this kind of thing? Tony, or Khalid, do you know that already? And do we know how to upload whatever it is we need to upload into the Maryland?
That was my question to Khalid before, Jeff. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I certainly believe the benchmark is achievable. And the other 2 policies are really about administrative tasks that need to be completed to make sure you're enrolled in the program.
Mm-hmm. But they're achievable. Do we have to do something in order to achieve them?
Well, we have to obtain data, about our energy usage. We have to track it. We have to report it to the state. We don't do any of those things right now. And we need to do them to maintain eligibility for future funding. That's the way I understand it.
Our LED program, that's already.
Yeah, we've done a few. We've done a few LED replacements already.
All right.
Yeah, so Jeff, to answer your question, so the baseline right now for the town's electrical consumption is approximately 1.3 million kilowatt hours. The lighting upgrade is going to reduce that by 300,000 kilowatt hours. So essentially, it's a little over 20% that we would meet that target if we were to replace all 663 lights. And we don't have to take 5 years to do that. If we can knock that out in 1 year, then that reporting would only account for 1 year to show that we made that actual upgrade, as opposed to every year having to report until we achieve the 15%.
But is it possible to replace all the 600 streetlights in the year? That doesn't, I mean, I don't know, but maybe it seems like that's a bit of a stretch. I don't know.
Well, we have 5 years to do it.
Yeah, and we have some funding in the existing capital budget, but to do all 600 in a year, even with some matching funds, might be more than we could afford in a single year, I believe.
Okay. But there's a plan in place and already it's in the budget, the 2022 budget. Tony, is that correct? Okay.
2022, 23, and 24, I believe.
Okay. All right.
Khalid, or Tony or Khalid, what is the process of replacing the bulbs?
What's the process?
How does that work?
It's really, I mean, you're just replacing the existing pole heads. So it's not the actual bulbs that we would replace. Actually, we could technically replace the bulbs, but you don't want to merge old technology with new technology.
So if we replace the bulb heads, right? Like, what does that look like? So I'm just trying to think like what's realistic in a 5-year period, so that the goal is a goal that we could probably hit.
Right. So if you take the 5-year route, you could probably pay out of the budget every year to get it done in 5 years if you don't rely on any other subsidy. Okay. If we get the utility incentive, that would essentially cover 80% of the cost of the project. And so right now we're working on getting 80% of that from the utility. Otherwise, to expedite or have a 18 to 24 month replacement period. Otherwise, we would have, if we relied on the typical annual budget, it would probably go all 5 years.
Yeah, Jeff, to amend my answer, we have currently have $40,000 a year budgeted from FY21 through FY26. So $200,000, we'd be happy to accelerate that with the use of the state funds and maybe cut out 25, 24, or even 26, and reallocate those funds to a different capital project. If we can get our hands on the matching funds.
Thank you,
I
Tony.
think in my discussion with Khalid last week, just replacing 600 heads actually could be done in a few months if you had enough heads and you had enough money. They can do 20 a day or something like that. It's a multi-year plan because we were expecting it to be paying for it on our own.
And who actually does it? Is it Pepco that actually comes and makes the change, the swap?
I don't know.
Actually, it's Potomac, Edison, and those are the details we would have to work out with a contract plan in terms of how do we go about these installs. Do we utilize town staff and resources, or do you contract out the work? Or some combination? But 5 years is, I'm going with 5 years because that's the length of the MSEC program is 5 years. So you have to make these achievements within a 5-year period.
And what happens if we don't?
There hasn't been any guidance on that. It would be, we may have to modify the policy or,
No, I was just asking because I don't know if there was some kind of penalty that came along with it or something.
Yeah, we hadn't talked about any penalties to if we don't achieve it. So
What you're saying, basically, we would penalize ourselves, right? There's no other authority that would come and say you didn't make your plan, so we're taking away your grant or something.
right, yeah. If you take the money, they expect you to deliver it or come with an alternate plan in terms of how you're going to hit that target.
Okay.
It's my
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
We would put ourselves in sustainability jail.
We don't want to do that.
So do we need a motion for this, Tony, or?
Khalid, is there anything else that you would want to share with us, or anything else, Tony, that we need to look at before we go to the motions?
No, this is really an administrative step. So I don't have anything else.
Do you think we can accomplish this in 5 years, Tony? Or,
Yeah.
or should we just say maybe it's 6 years or something like that?
No, it's 6 years would be failure. I think you're definitely, especially with some matching funds, you should be able to get this done
Okay.
much faster than 5 years.
Yeah,
I just don't think I have a good solid grasp of this. Yeah, I don't feel it. I mean, I've read this, but I can't really put it together as well.
Well, also you got to keep in mind that if you were to change everything out in a year, then your bills would reflect approximately $36,000 to $40,000 savings. Okay, so you would get that benefit in the first year, and then you can pass that on either to cover the costs to do the upfront work over a period of time. But if we have enough subsidies, those funds, like Tony said, could be allocated to other projects. But there is a benefit to reducing the bill or to replacing the LEDs in the form of a reduced street lighting bill, which is currently at $7,000 a month.
That's a lot. But I have just another question. So if we went ahead with the project of replacing the streetlights with the LEDs, right? Because that's already underway. But we did not adopt this document. Would there be any repercussions?
We wouldn't get matching funding from the state.
Oh, okay. Now I'm putting it together. I didn't say that anywhere. Okay.
So the amendment, so if I am understanding it correctly, then the amendment includes partnering with the Maryland Energy Administration and enrolling as a Maryland Smart Energy Community. I think that's the catch. And then Khalid, Tony, am I accurate or am I off?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody that didn't want to be part of smart energy communities, but
Okay.
No, I'm not saying that
we're not right now. So I mean, something got missed.
if there's certainly a benefit to us or to the planet, we should do it.
Yeah, so I think that's the
You're
general.
basically writing a wrong, a mistake, or
Well, I think
fine.
Perhaps,
Yeah, so,
perhaps an omission.
so right now you have up to $260,000 that the state is willing to match over the course of this 5-year period. The cost to replace the lights is $264,000. Okay, so that entire budget alone over the 5 years would cover the entire cost of the lighting project with today's prices. Now you start dragging this out till 3, 4, 5 years from now. Who knows, more supply chain issues, the prices of equipment, the prices of labor go up, there may be some out of pocket, but right now you're reserving this policy, you're reserving the rights to up to $260,000 in grant subsidy from the state.
Okay.
By enrolling in this program.
Too bad I didn't say that.
Is there any discussion, or does anyone want to make a motion to amend?
I'll make a motion. I just want to see if there's any more discussion so everybody's comfortable with what we would vote on.
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, same here. It sounds like if we don't do it, we're not eligible for $260,000 worth of grants. So that certainly makes sense.
All right, so I motion that we amend the sustainable procurement policy as it's been presented by the Sustainable Poolesville Committee.
I'll second that.
Great. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. Motion carries. All right.
Thanks for being here, Khalid.
Thank you all for having me. Look
Thank you,
forward
Khalid.
to-
Thanks for being here. And thanks for all your work on that with the Sustainable Poolesville Committee.
Oh, it's not me, it's the team.
No, I know. That's why I said the committee.
All right.
Have a good evening.
All right,
Thanks.
See you later.
Have a
Thank you
good night.
too.
Here, appreciate it. All right. So now we're on to our second item under new business, which is the commissioner's letter regarding White's Ferry. And this was, this came out of a conversation that I had had with Link, our Fair Access Committee Chair. He had proposed to us putting together some kind of statement from the commissioners, and everyone got his draft, and then I played with it and drafted it into form of a release as well. Myself, I'm not necessarily advocating that we send one out at this time, but it seemed like we should at least discuss and see if it's a statement that we want to put out. I mean, my hope is that the community knows that we are working on this, that we're doing everything that we can, and that, you know, that all of our residents know that their state and local and even federal representatives are working on this issue. I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards waiting a little bit longer to put something out to see what happens with Loudoun County, because that is kind of the waiting game we're playing at the moment, to see what action, if any, they take. But I just wanted to bring this before everyone and see what the general feeling was. Anyone have any thoughts?
Yeah, can I ask a question? So I got two things in my package. One was, I'll just make it simple, a one-pager, and the other one was a two-pager. But it sounds like they kind of are going towards the same message. So are we talking about having a letter? That I kind of like the approach of having these two solutions that are on the 2-page or a page-and-a-half letter. I really like that. The other one doesn't necessarily go into wording about, possible approaches towards at least a temporary solution. So I kind of like that approach. So it may not be polished, but I like the idea of having suggesting two possible ways to go, at least for a temporary solution.
So two things on my side. One is I don't know, Carrie, unless you know something we don't know, what would be the reason to wait? Do you know if anybody is working on this in any direction?
Well, from my perspective, the overall feeling is that the entire delegation is kind of putting light pressure on our friends over on the Virginia side, and encouraging them to take action, and being best supporters that we can. And so that's sort of my overall lean towards waiting to see what happens with that right now. But on the other hand, I can see both sides of it too. It's been a year. I mean, it's extremely frustrating that it's been a year, and this is where we're still at.
Well, I'm totally appreciative of the delegation's efforts, but in this case, and nothing about our board or the idea of turning a letter into press release or whatever, but the original intention for this was we created this letter. The original 2-prong approach was to send this to all the elected officials on both sides of the river to let them know that this town is the one that's affected by far the most, as we know, that we are the ones that are totally affected by this. And, of course, we're interested in playing nice, but at the same time, as you said, it's been a year. We actually knew a month ahead of time before it was closing. And, I get our guys, our delegation, they genuinely, we can take their cues, but this is one of the times where, when is enough? And when do we actually, in my mind, we should have done this before we even had the study, because the study now just confirms what we kind of already knew. And I think the main takeaway is that we are the ones, our residents, Poolesville, Darnestown, Potomac, Boyd's, Clarksburg, the guys, people are on the west side of 270, I get it, but this is really our issue. And I feel like we're treading water, and I don't want to wait anymore. And I don't think the Fair Access Committee necessarily wants to wait anymore either. But at the same time, we want to play, nice with our team, because they are our team, and they've been working hard for us on other things. But this is one where I think we kind of need to step away and show them that Poolesville and Poolesville businesses, Poolesville commuters, they are being affected. And I can just tell you firsthand, I've sold 3 people's houses who have moved out of Poolesville because they don't believe White's Ferry is coming back, and they commute to the Dulles corridor all the time. So we lose residents, we lose businesses, we lose through traffic. I don't know why we would hold back. And I want a letter that details, at least we're proposing something that goes out to the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors, the Loudoun Chair, our council members, our county executive, of course, our delegation. If we don't stand up for ourselves, I know they're standing up for us, but we are the ones affected by this. So I prefer that we go back to the original letter that we wrote. Yes, I'm in favor of tweaking it and doing some things to make it a little more clear cut, keep it friendly, but keep it clear cut, and have that be what goes out directly to our elected officials. And also I don't propose any of this because I care. I don't think we need to show anybody that we're working hard. I think that we need to put it out there, because I think the people do know we're working hard, but I think we need to put it out there because it's the best thing to do. So I appreciate the perspective, and you're as connected with our elected officials as I am, Carrie. So you know what they're trying to do stuff for us. But I think we got to break away from that and stand up for ourselves.
Yeah.
And what are there any drawbacks to this? Like what do we risk, like blowback from the delegates? Do we risk, is there any like potential pitfalls to this?
I can't think of any. I don't think we're insulting anybody, and I don't think we're going to be ticking anybody off either. I think it's like, hey, Poolesville's standing up for something that is directly affecting us directly. So,
are we giving the Loudon supervisors like a how do you say this, like an easy way out to not eminent domain it if we do this? I mean, are we is this something that is more appropriate after they say no, we're not going to eminent domain it?
I don't think eminent domain is if you guys watch the last Loudoun County Board of Supervisors meeting that Carrie and Link testified at, I don't think the votes are there for eminent domain at all. I think it's more about that, and I think that's where our frustration lands, is that we're kind of waiting for nothing. So now it comes time that we propose solutions and try to, and it's kind of stinks because one of our solutions is that these municipalities pony up. And part of the reason why they have to pony up is due to their own inaction, in my mind. So not that saying they're not working for us. And the study was amazing, cost a couple $100,000 of taxpayer money.
Counties,
But-
right?
What's that?
Not the municipalities, the counties, right?
Yeah, the counties, right. I mean, indirectly, we all pay, but the counties pay this. But yeah, no, we want the counties to like do the money. You guys have heard this, right? Chuck Kuhn is done negotiating with Loudoun County side. That's not a secret with the owners on the other side. So we're proposing a direction that allows the municipalities to take some responsibility, and it also puts the ball in their court in order to come up with solutions so they don't have to be the ones that pay and our taxpayers have to pay.
Mhm.
So that's,
I just wonder,
part of the drive.
just playing devil's advocate, I wonder if there's any point to waiting until they, their next meeting or whatever, and like they don't take up the issue, they don't eminent domain it, and then maybe we release this.
Yeah, I will add my 2 cents. I like these ideas or I like the fact that the letter suggests 2 ideas. And I'd also like if we send this letter, when we send this letter, I'd like to have maybe a follow-up meeting, not only with the Montgomery County folks, but with the Loudoun County folks. There's a couple of things coming to my head. When I was at the Loudoun County Supervisors meeting over in Leesburg, there were more people that spoke against eminent domain than there were. I don't think anybody did speak in favor of eminent domain. We were hoping, of course, for the opposite, but that didn't come true. So my idea here is if we put this in front of them, both counties, and maybe they will do something while hopefully considering eminent domain as a longer term answer. But I see these, and it even says in the letter here, the two temporary solutions, they indicate that they are temporary until a permanent solution is obtained. So yeah, I don't see any advantage in waiting. I kind of like if there, and it almost feels to me like there is a dip in our, and maybe there isn't because the Fair Access Committee maybe is doing stuff that I'm not aware of. That's great, but it almost feels like there's a little bit of dip in our pressure against them, and yeah, we need to maybe ratchet that up a little bit, in a friendly way. Yeah, so I would be in favor of doing something like sending this letter specifically to them, suggesting these 2 approaches, having a follow-up meeting. And of course, I'm not saying that I should do that, but the Fair Access Committee should do that, and I'll be, happy to participate in whatever, if that's useful. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of coming from.
I'm good with it. I was just trying to like ask all the different questions and look at it from different angles, but yeah. I'm good with it. I mean, like this is like beyond frustrating at this point, and it makes me want to tear my hair out. It's just maddening. But anyway.
Yeah.
How about Ed? What do you got?
Yeah, sure. So what I'm thinking about, here we are, it is almost a year later. And then when it first happened, we got on a big Zoom, and you had your different elected officials, who all came on, and everyone's talking about the problem. So I think it would be good, one, to go ahead and send something out to be the voice for those folks here in Poolesville who's affected. Like I think about, I just look around the town and in the few restaurants that we do have, looking at that impact where you don't have as much traffic coming through. All right. And so I think that's a concern. And then I also think that moving now, then I like Jeff's idea. I think if you move now and then request a follow-up meeting where, elected, we all can have a follow-up conversation in terms of what is that plan? Just like we met with them when the problem arose, now it's time to talk about what's next a year later. Because the longer you wait, you can't just keep floating your businesses. And I think about the economic impact on a Bassett's or some of the smaller places where people would stop, grab something on the way home, coming off the ferry. So
Yeah.
I'm more in favor to push the envelope and let the voices be heard with the call to action of, yes, we hear two approaches that we propose, and then can we get together and meet like we did last time?
If they got a better idea, we're all ears. But up until then, I don't think there's any better ideas. And as said, unless somebody knows something, I'm guessing on the side of that we're waiting on our side, and they may be talking on their side. But I certainly didn't walk away from that meeting thinking they got 5 people that are ready to vote for condemnation on their side. I didn't get that at all.
I did not see that at all either. No.
And I also saw Chuck Kuhn, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I saw Chuck Kuhn that was absolutely insulted by the behavior from the other side during that meeting. And after the meeting, there was a bit of a tiff too that took place. And I just don't see that happening. I think the municipalities have to decide this. And they need to, if they take the initiative and we get the ball rolling somehow, then it's truly on their shoulders to help find a solution to this and get it, because our taxpayers shouldn't have to pay a quarter for every car that goes over. Neither should their side. This should be worked out, but obviously somebody's gonna have to step in. So, yeah. So what my end proposal is that we take the original letter that we wrote. I'm not opposed to a press release, but we take the original letter that the Fair Access Committee put together, and I want to tweak it to make it a little more succinct about what we're looking for, get it out of paragraph format. That's something I know we can do on the committee, and then gladly send the commissioners a copy of it so you guys can eyeball it. But put it out through our various means of approaching all these elected officials that we've used in the past, and then as I said, request a follow up and see if we can see what kind of momentum, if we got any out of it, to try and get the ball moving forward.
Do you think that there's any more weight associated with the letter if it's co-signed by the Fair Access Committee and the
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it needs to be.
You have signing letter, it spreads it out, right? Because you have quite a few people.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to be both the town commissioners as well as the Fair Access Committee. There's no question.
And the letter would go to both sides of the river, right? The Loudoun County supervisors
Correct.
and Montgomery County.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And you guys, all this is just a lot of talk right now, right? We're trying to debate this out, figure out the best direction to go. I mean, they could just take the letter and tear it up and throw it away. But it said, I'm not doing this to try and show our residents that we're trying to come up with a solution. I want to find a solution, and I want, if this gets met with stonewall or no reaction, then we're going to go back to the drawing board and we're going to come up with more solutions, and we're going to keep the pressure on, and which I think we should have been doing all year, but keep the pressure on that we want to be solutions based. And from the get-go, when we found out almost a month ahead of time that it was going to close, and we were met with, this is a public road, private issue, public road leading up to the private issue, but it's a private issue. That to me was, it makes for a good conversation, but in the end, that doesn't make up operating ferry. So we've got to take it another direction on that.
Yeah. Do we need to make a motion about this, or are you just going to proceed? The Fair Access Committee will go ahead and proceed with polishing up the letter.
I just think we need a consensus. This isn't something
Okay.
that's to me, a votable thing. I think
All
it's
right.
just like, we're looking for some direction, and I appreciate all the input from all sides.
Yeah. Well,
And if any of our elected officials, I know there's probably only 5 people that are listening right now or watching us, but if any of our elected officials have something different that they want to talk about on this, I'd love to hear it. And absence of that, then I think we need to move forward.
okay.
What are your thoughts on the piece of trying to bring them back together, even just to share with us? What is the plan? Has been a year, and even talk about, and even not even share with us the plan, but let's talk about the effectiveness. What are they running into with not being able to move forward? Because we are at a standstill.
Well, we could invite them to a meeting. If that's what you're talking.
Past the standstill.
We could invite them to a meeting if that's what you're talking about, Ed.
I mean, I think David Frigio-Dago has been the one that's been providing the lead on it. I'd love to have him in a meeting to talk about it anytime. But I don't want to wait for him to tell us what they're doing or not doing before we send the letter out.
When it first happened, when the closure first went public and we all met that night, who called that meeting? Did we ask for that meeting, or did they call that meeting?
We called it.
We called a special meeting, and we invited
Friday night.
Joe and Andrew Friedson.
And so I think here we are a year later. It might be time to send the letter, and within the letter include an invitation to have a discussion about the letter, so we could look at, where are we going? Here's what we're proposing. Is there something that we're missing? Where are we going? Because this is the impact that it's having on our community.
Yep. Okay, so Jim and Ed are going to work on the letter with the Fair Access Committee, and then after they get the letter, we'll arrange a meeting. Does that sound correct?
I think we work on the letter because we have a committee meeting Thursday. I think we go through, do a little bit more tweaking, and then vet it through all the commissioners, make sure everybody's on the same page, see if there's anything that's missed, see if we have consensus on that, and then move and then look at scheduling an invite.
Carrie, do you mind talking to David Frigio-Dago and see if he's got an issue with us doing this? Just ask him straight up. I mean, I can if you want, but I know you've been contacting him.
He would like for us to wait.
Okay, that still doesn't change my mind.
I mean,
We've been waiting a year.
No, we're our own board. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Well, if he has any context to that, I'd be welcome to hear it. If he said, "Hey, look, yeah, we've been talking to the other side, and it looks like they've got 3 votes towards condemnation, and maybe we'll get a 4th if we keep our powder dry." That'd be something that I'd like to hear. But if not, then what's the point?
I guess the way I see it is, the things that we're suggesting, proposing, subsidies and so forth. I mean, I'm sure these are ideas that they've all, either already suggested or have in the back of their mind as well. And, I mean, it's a chess game, right? I mean,
no politician wants to raise taxes.
What's that?
No politician, no elected official wants to raise taxes and put a tax on things. I mean, I get it. That's not popular.
They're simply not going to go there until
Somebody forces them to.
Right, exactly. Well, but they're not going to go there because why show those cards if they're waiting to see what happens with Virginia first? Right.
There's no, we keep waiting for that. There's not enough cards over there unless we tell them that we'll build a bridge.
I mean, Chuck Kuhn and Herb Brown, put out these announcements, statements, I mean, they're very strategic. It's quite brilliant.
Well, Herb has no skin in the game. I appreciated that Facebook post that came around. That's why I shared it. I thought that was right on the money and very, very accurate compared to what was happening at the time, as you know, when they were doing. So I thought that was, it's too bad we even have to fight a PR battle here. That's part of the problem.
Yes, I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, I think in this case, action is better than inaction. You guys polish up the letter, and if you want the commissioners to review it, that's fine.
Yeah,
I
no,
certainly-
we have no reason why not, but we're not,
Okay.
I don't think we want to wait for a meeting to approve it.
No, we don't. Yeah, we don't need that.
But if anybody has any feedback, I'm welcome to it.
Yeah, let's
Gary,
do
will
this.
you ask David Fraser Hidalgo if like he has some, like Jim said, just sort of reiterating, like if he has some kind of like something we don't know, or some like, you know, really compelling reason why we should wait, to have him like contact us or come to one of our meetings or something, so that, you know, because I'm sure we would all reevaluate if there's some really, really good reason.
Well, the reason is what we're just talking about. It's how many of your cards do you want to show at a time?
I guess my issue with it is while people are playing, I'll go with the card analogy. While folks are holding out on who's going to play what, there's an impact every day
Yep.
on somebody else. And so it's, while folks who aren't directly impacted, it's easier for them to sit back and play chess or play cards. But for us, when we go in and we look at what's the daily impact on the local economy, and we're talking about having this master plan, we're talking about economics development, but who in their right mind is going to come out and rent out all this empty space if you don't have the traffic coming through? Right? I mean, that's,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just so frustrating because no matter, you know, even if the ferry is reopened somehow, of all of the ways that we're talking about, all of them are going to take time.
all the what?
I mean, even if eminent domain happens tomorrow, I mean, the Browns on the Virginia side aren't just going to say, okay. I mean, that's going to sit in legal.
Well, the only difference for that is that
go to first punch and let it get going.
Right.
yeah,
And
it's the
same thing with
municipality's
county-
problem.
Same
It's-
thing with,
Sorry,
I was
Carrie,
just-
go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say the same thing with county subsidies. I mean, yeah, like what Jim just talked about. I mean, now we're talking about money coming out of county budgets. I mean, that doesn't happen within a day or two.
Well,
either.
it is small change compared to by any metric, it's small change. But I think that the thing is, again, that the hope is that we'll force these public entities to recognize, you know, now they're bleeding. We're the only ones bleeding right now. And they haven't bled anything except for they spent $200,000, $100,000 each, supposedly, whatever the number is, of town taxpayer money doing the study. The study does provide a baseline. I get it. I think the main walkaway from the study is that the ferry doesn't make money. Or doesn't make it in its current, you know, in the most recent years of how it operates. So no one's getting rich. I think you know, this puts it back. As said, if they can't embrace some of these solutions, we have to keep coming up with solutions. We have to keep pressure coming up.
Yeah.
Or else you guys, we're not going to see the ferry operate again. The two parties are not going to work it out.
Yeah.
These
No, we
police
need,
have to step up.
I'm all in favor of taking some action. This letter and the two ideas, I think, are a good step.
Okay,
Sounds
we're
good.
gonna we'll move forward.
Good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Great. So now we are on to town manager report, Tony.
Thanks. Okay, number of issues or topics, not issues. I'd be remiss if I didn't start out with echoing the thanks and appreciation for the staff that worked on the holiday lighting event. I thought went off remarkably smoothly. Yeah, I know there were some challenges logistically from what we used to do, but The guys were out there, the crew were out there in some pretty bad weather, getting things set up and making sure everything worked. And Kathy in town hall, making sure as many vendors as we could get. Some of them actually, I mean, this is, I don't know if it's confidential or not, but some of them actually kind of tried to bail at the last minute, and we're convinced not to. And then, look for a minute there that Santa wasn't showing up either, because there was fire somewhere. And it was like just one thing after another.
Yeah, Santa was at the station and there was no fire engine.
And then there was interaction with Santa in a treetop there on Beale Avenue, which led me to worry about, workers' compensation. But it all worked out in the end. And the crews just did a great job, and I was really impressed with how that came together. On to some business. The trash survey, a resident survey about satisfaction with and ideas for the next trash contract has hit, I believe, 300 responses, which is a 15% return, which is double what I was expecting, and grows a little bit each day. So really good response. We are tabulating the responses, and as long as it's okay, we will put it on the agenda for the next meeting to walk you through the results. And then we'll post the results on the website. There has been some public interest in seeing the results as well. But look for a report on the trash survey at your next meeting.
Tony, to be fair, I think it's fair to say that Bates has improved, like gotten off the schneid a little bit and has picked up their game. Unless somebody knows otherwise, let me know, but that's what it looks like.
That's what I've heard.
Complaints are way down. To get a complaint now is unusual. Back to the level of, just missing something not because nobody showed up to work, but because, there's just a lot of cans to pick up. Regarding, Martin mentioned the master plan, and I had a meeting with the consultants and learned an interesting bit of news last week when we were talking about how we're going to make reports on our own website. I was encouraging them to move a little faster because I believed that the deadline was looming for submitting the master plan, but it turns out that it is not. Since we did the last master plan, the law has changed to allow municipalities to use the 2020 census data. So in fact, it's not due until the end of 2022 and can actually be pushed a little bit further than that. Since we're looking at very likely a contract amendment, that gives us flexibility to actually assign funding to this in the next budget and not have to overspend this budget or do an amendment, which is a good thing for us. So we'll talk about that when we get around to the issue of a contract amendment and in the context of the 2023 budget. I've asked the consultants to start thinking about just what the scale of that is. I think you've gotten some communication from the town attorney and Martin and others possibly that, the actual writing of the document may be better handled by, professional master plan writers. But that's not part of the scope of their current contract. So I've asked them to think about what that would look like in terms of cost and timing. But it was good news that, we're not under a looming deadline, that in the next 2 or 3 months, we had to have a completed document into the Maryland Office of Planning. We've received the first draft of an employee handbook from our human resource consultants. It's pretty rough. We actually have a meeting tomorrow morning, myself, Preston, Bobby, Andrew, and Matt, to kind of go through it and mark it up and send it back to the consultants. There's some pretty obvious omissions. There's some pretty obvious things that are a little old-fashioned in it that I think need to be tightened up. At some point, that document will need to get to you. It's not ready yet. I expect it's going to go through 2 or maybe 3 iterations before it's ready to do that. We had a meeting with the Oddfellows who own the building on the corner of those two roads up there. I'm sure you both know what they are, but they escape me at the moment.
For sure in Elgin.
Okay. A group called the Up County Prevention Network is working with the Oddfellows on a mural project. Possibly you've heard of this. It was good. It was a productive meeting. We actually got representatives of the Oddfellows to come, to the table and discuss what it could be. There's a little bit of a difference of opinion as to what the mural was supposed to communicate, and whether the Oddfellows actually had authority from their governing body to put something like that on the building, which was a little odd because I think they had requested to do that in the past. But whatever, they're checking the Oddfellows national headquarters just in Baltimore, and they should be able to figure out whether that can happen. If it does happen, there will be some sort of competition at the high school level, I believe, to do some sort of draft design of a mural on the side of that building. And depending on the content of the mural, it might need a permit from the town. So we'll see where that goes. Right now, we're just waiting on the Oddfellows HQ to figure out whether they're going to allow it, and then whether the high school wants to run a design competition. I would ask Carrie, do you think I captured that appropriately? I know you've been working with them a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I agree. They're basically just waiting to get approval, and I mean, I think it can be a great project that integrates the school and the community and a local artist, and not just Oddfellows and UPN, but really the whole community. And I think the overall theme is like bringing sort of a renewed spirit coming out of the pandemic. So it'll be interesting. I mean, that's pretty broad, so it'll be interesting to see what ideas they come up with, especially if they do a competition at the high school. So yeah, it's a neat project.
And we'll see where it goes. And we'll keep you posted. 4, 5. Those are my items.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tony.
Thank you. So I think unless there's anything else, is there a motion to adjourn? And we are actually adjourning to closed session, pursuant to 3-305 B71 of the general provisions of the Maryland annotated code for the purpose of personnel matters. We are adjourning to that closed session now, and I'm sorry, we're going on to a different Zoom. Is that correct?
We have a separate link.
Okay.
I think that's how we've handled it in the past.
Okay.
So
I make a motion, we
restart the
adjourn.
meeting.
Is there a second?
Second by Jeff.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Another Zoom.
Okay.